What's up, Shinners? It's Matty P from the Shindig podcast, where, of course, we like to dig deep into the trials community. Welcome back to your weekly consumption of trials chit-chat. Keeping it in the UK today, we are going up to Scotland to chat with the stylish Ben Travis. Amazing chat with Ben. He's an incredible rider. He's done a lot for the trials community. Mainly, I would say, his amazing video projects that he's produced over the years. Some of them have been some of my favourite videos. So we do go into that, some of the project that Ben's done. We also go into back when he rode TGS. He didn't always ride a bike with a seat, is his background, if you didn't know. As well as the time he ruptured his spleen during a ride and tried to carry on. What a trooper. So we hear all about that story as well. But of course, guys, don't forget, if you haven't supported the Shindig podcast yet, there is many ways that you guys can do that. Very easy. Head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a little 5-star review if you think so. And of course, you can go to our website as well, where we've got bits of merch that you guys can purchase. All of the profits go back into Shindig so that we can make these videos and make these podcasts for all of you, and so that we can carry on doing that. So, and if you have supported us before, thank you on behalf of all of the Shindig crew. Thank you very much. But if you haven't, do go and check out our website, YouTube, and either give it a watch or 5-star, or treat yourself to a little bit of merch. But I won't keep you guys any longer. You listen to my voice enough as it is, and sadly it will just be my voice, so sorry to those that are fed up with it already. Let's just get straight into it. Let's go. Mr. Ben Travis. Woo, woo.
Hey man, how's it going? How you doing?
Hey mate, I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, good.
Nice.
Just working away today, but sun's out. Can't complain.
Good. I'm glad we were able to take you away from work for a little while to
I
chat.
can give you a little bit of time, you know.
Yeah, to chat what I hope you're better at, which is riding your bike, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm far more interested in trials than work, so there is that.
And for those people listening who don't know who you are or where you are right now, where are you in the world, Ben?
So I'm Ben Travis, and I live in Aberdeen in sunny Scotland. You can probably tell by the accent that I'm not Scottish. I've lived up here for nearly 18 years, I think now. So I moved up here when I came for uni. I'm originally from Hull in East Yorkshire, from the land of Damon Watson, for all you TGSers. So that's my background. So yeah, I've been in Aberdeen a long time now, and it's basically what I call home. So that's cool.
Because I didn't realise you'd lived there for that long. I knew that you'd kind of migrated there.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was saying to someone just the other day, I was like, do you think I should put on a fake Scottish accent when I go online just to see if they actually think I'm Scottish? But no, I moved up here when I came to uni when I was 18, and I've been here since I'm 36 now. So it's been a fair amount of time. I think, I must have started riding trials like 13 years old in Hull, just outside of Hull. I live just outside of Hull. Yeah. And then, uni called, and I went up to Aberdeen, and I've not left.
Yeah, it must be
ever since.
Must be something in the water there, because there's quite a few good trials riders from Scotland.
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, there's quite a few of us. I mean, the younger generation is still coming through. It doesn't seem like this generation, but maybe I'm just I don't see a lot of it. A lot because I'm too busy just riding. But yeah, there's quite a few with Danny and Duncan and
it's a very strong crew up there, isn't it?
Ali obviously moving up, so it's not bad. I don't think we all get together as much as we probably should, but yeah, it's quite the strong team. If there was a nationality to go for, in the street trials anyway, we wouldn't be keeping up with like the Jack Carthys and co. But on the street side, we're certainly not bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a very strong squad in that way. Is that what kind of led you to stay in Scotland with your bike, Ben? Wasn't the riders or anything?
A little bit. I mean, it's one of these. I kind of hung around with the guys a little bit. Aberdeen's a little bit far out. It's kind of like really 2 hours from anywhere. Um, so kind of got stuck in the, the circle of work and what was going on with outside of trials life. But I never really had any vast reason to leave. The riding was always good. And when I was riding far more frequently, I could easily travel down to Glasgow, and there's some really good street riding. There's plenty of good natural spots for when I was back being a TGSer and trying my hand at the comps and stuff. Yeah. But I just never really had the opportunity or will to really move anywhere else. And now I'm a married man with a wee lad that is it's kind of just kept me here, and the work's here, so I've kind of got to balance life and trials, unfortunately.
Good to hear that you're managing.
Yeah, I've been here a long time, but love it.
Yeah, good to hear you're managing, family life as well as a cyclist life, because that can be difficult. I know not from a personal point of view. But
no, it is. I mean, there is a big balance to be struck. I try my best to fit the bikes in around the family stuff and work commitments, but I can't get enough of riding trials. As I say, I'm 36 now, and I thought if I'd looked back 10 years and thought, would you still be riding at 36? I'd have been like, no, maybe on the mountain bikes or something like that, but riding trials, probably not. But I actually love it more the older I get. And I don't know if it's kind of I'm coming to the end of the, the trials progression, but I do love it. Like, I'm always watching it. I'm always trying to get out on my bike, even if it's just for an hour, whenever I can fit in. I'll go out at lunchtimes when I'm working. I'll go out in the evenings, like later on in the evening, just to try and get a ride in. So yeah, it's pretty good to be still enjoying it, this late into.
I mean, it's a hard thing to keep motivated. Have you got anything that keeps you driven and keeps you motivated to get out on your bike so regularly?
For me, it's literally about pushing myself to try new things. It's kind of, I wouldn't say I'm the most original rider. I'm not out there making tricks up. I'm not a Jean Langlois or even like Danny, that kind of thing on the street trials. But I've always loved the learning aspect of trials in terms of learning something new. It took me a year to learn to back up when we started, because all we had was tricks and stunts to learn from, right?
Yeah.
When I first started, but even like learning foot jam whips or learning, trying to learn bar spins or something like that, I can spend hours at a curb setup, just trying to learn something, even if it's like a 180 gap or something like that. And I still have the TGS aspect in me, because I'm always trying to go a bit bigger, whether it's with a gap or whether it's with a side up or whatever, even on the street bike. So just pushing myself to try new things, and then I'm all about making edits. In reality, edits are the thing for me. I don't really like this whole, you've got to put a clip up daily on social media. I'm not great at that, but I love the process of making a video edit and putting 6 months into planning out lines, going and filming, taking the hits, not getting something, getting frustrated, getting angry, and then coming back and getting it. That's basically what keeps me sticking at it. And yeah, I just love it. I've been doing it for 20 years, trying to make edits and stuff. So it's kind of to still be going and still feel like I'm pushing myself. And other people might not feel the same, but I feel like I'm as good as I've ever been. Maybe not in terms of going big with side ups and stuff like I used to on the TGS bike, but yeah, I feel smoother and more confident in my ability than I've ever done. So I'm sticking around for a wee while.
Still improving despite 20 years on the bike. You'd think, like you say, you'll hit a plateau at some point. That's what I think most people
think so, right?
Believe.
Yeah.
But from experience, no. Even some of my closest friends who've ridden more than 20 years still improving, which just means that you're not too old. You can't. There's always room for progression. I've got to say.
Yeah. Things. I mean, the body tends to hurt when you crash a bit more the older you get. I mean, everybody will slowly learn it. I mean, it's certainly, I certainly feel like I don't bounce as well as I used to, but it's just learning something new and putting the hours in. I mean, I've said to the wife a few times, I can kind of just go out on my bike, and I'll go out in an evening, say 7:30, I'll go find something, and I'll find that I've been riding the same bench and it's suddenly 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I'm literally trying either the same thing over and over, trying to get it dialed in, or I've just got loads of little ideas. I'm working on, and it's little things like that. And you forgot the worries of the day, anything else in life is kind of gone. And because you're so focused on what you're doing at that time. And I think that's why I stick to it. It's really my kind of like happy place that I can clear my head and just focus on riding my bike. In terms of plateauing, I think you always do plateau sometimes, but I think it's about pushing through it, right? You guys will know with, like even side hopping and stuff. I remember being stuck at like back when I was an inch pincher trying to get like 45, 46
I haven't heard
inches
that term
and pushing
in
through
ages.
that.
Yeah, inch hunter, inch
it
pincher.
took me forever. No, it's trying to push through it and just keep going. And then out of nowhere, you'll maybe take a week off because you've got other commitments, or you're going out on the weekend, so you don't ride or something like this. And then the next week you come back and you feel refreshed, and then you've done it. You've done what you've just spent a week trying to do. And the next thing you know, you're like, right, I'm going on to the next level. And street, I'll go through periods where I can't do something and I'm just getting angry, I'm ready to throw the bike.
Yeah.
I'm a bit short-tempered or whatever. And then the next thing I know, I've landed it and I've got it reasonably in, and I'm thinking, oh, what was all the fuss about back then? But it's just kind of memory, isn't it? And learning. And I think that's why I stick in at it, really. Just can't not do it. It's just so enjoyable.
And I'm always one to say, stick to what you're good at, basically. We may have just lost a bit of a connection there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. Stick to what you're good at is what I would always say. But how did it even start for you, Ben? Because you weren't the word street trials. You weren't really a street trials rider before.
Yeah.
That's what people might know you as now. Most done some very good project with Inspired. Most recently, Malaga was in 2019. There's a really good recent one of you going to London.
Well, that was Duncan, that one.
Yeah, well, you were there. You were there. You've got clips on there, but and a great story about you rupturing your spleen last year, I believe. I didn't know that, but we'll go into that.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
But how did it start?
Yeah, so my background is, So for me, basically we were actually dirt jumpers back in my little village. So I'm talking like when I'm 13. We were a couple of the lads that were there, my mate Phil, and I were both trying to get into dirt jumping and all this kind of stuff. And Phil had a little fall. I'm talking like tiny little dirt jumps, things that people would scoff at, but he kind of he got internal bleeding. He landed straight on his handlebar, got internal bleeding, and so he ended up in hospital for a couple of days and stuff like that. And we were like, and there was an older guy in the village who was doing trials back in the day, and I think he'd essentially seen like tricks and stunts, and he was doing the odd backup. This guy called Duncan, and I've forgotten his surname, but yeah, Duncan lived right across the street from my mum and dad, and we were it was like looking up to the older guy. And we were just like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Let's try that. So we're trying to learn to back up. And he saw us trying it. And because he lived across the road, he was like, oh, would you like to borrow this video, VHS? It's that long ago now. He's like, oh, would you like to borrow this video? And I was like, oh, what is it? And so he pulls out tricks and stunts. And of course, I pretty much wear out his videotape by watching it on repeat. And I think it probably sounds a bit cliche when people of my age, the likes of Ali, maybe the Duncans, the Dannys and stuff like this, talk about it like this. It's true. Like for me, it was true. Is I wore out a videotape of someone else's videotape of tricks and stunts, just watching it on repeat, And so it was just something that stuck. And watching Martin ride, I was like, this is incredible. What is this? You don't, because what trials is like. I mean, I know it's changed very
it's so
much
foreign
over
to
the
most
years
people.
To what it is. But yeah, people are just like, what is this guy doing? What is this person doing on top of a phone box on a bike? It's just not normal. So I was the same. So we watched this. I showed it to my mates, and we just got into it. And because we were small, we had small bikes because we were trying to dirt jump, and then we just kind of went from there. And the next thing, it took me, as I said before, it took me about a year to learn to back up across the street, which if I think back now was probably a total of about 25 backups to get across the street, rather than where we are now, where you could do it in a couple, you know?
Yeah.
And it just stuck. Trials just stuck for me. And we slowly progressed into going into the town we live near, which is just outside of Hull, a town called Beverley. And we were going into Beverley and we were riding on there. And then that went going into Hull, and we met a bigger group of guys. So there was, by this point, there was myself, Phil, Andy Spencer, Anthony Ward. I won't name them all. A couple of other guys. And we just got really stuck into the scene, and there was a big scene of us. I mean, a weekend ride would be 10 or 12 of us in Hull, just kind of on all the spots people have probably seen on Damon's videos and things like that. We loved it. We were out every weekend, sometimes both days, you know, and I was never, when I was younger, before I turned 18, I was never really into the pub or anything. I was not bothered about going drinking. I was just bike mad. I was like, I need to be riding my trials bike. I need to be going out. And yeah, it just kind of progressed from there. And then at this point in time, we're all on, you know, like Pashley's, or I was on a Curtis, I think, at one point. And everybody was on like an Onza T-Rex, that kind of thing. So it was still, looking back, it's still kind of streety bikes, but we just had longer stems on them. So, you know, 120 mil stems, you know, far too long for the bike and stuff like that. But it was kind of just that. And then slowly, bit by bit, you know, you start seeing videos of the Trials Kings. You start seeing, there was a guy called Matt Berridge. I don't know if you've ever heard of Matt. Used to ride a Curtis, lived down in Bristol. A couple of all the guys in there, they were all putting videos, and we were the people that were spending 40 minutes, an hour, a couple of hours downloading a video for like 30 seconds on quality that was awful. You could barely see what you were looking at, but it was just, that just got us absolutely stoked to ride, and it just went from there, you know.
It's the closest thing to YouTube, you know.
And yeah, I've been there ever since. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to think what there was a name of a website. I think it was like a Dutch website. I'm sure it was like Engodigi or something like that. And it basically had all these uploads on it. Was all these videos. Every single trials video you could ever find was on there. And you could just download these things. As I say, it would take you all night to do it if you didn't have a good enough connection. But the next day you'd have this brilliant like video that you're just like, who is this guy? Like, what is this guy doing? This is incredible. And it just motivated you to go out and try and push yourself, you know? And as I say, we were always on like street bikes or streety bikes.
Because like having those videos, I feel, is like what people work towards. You know, you would always be riding, practicing, you'd be like, right, I'm going to make a new video and send it out there. And then that inspired the next person to make another video. And then it inspired the next. It was kind of like this snowball effect in the community.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think the thing was with trials back then, nobody was really doing tricks. You weren't seeing people trying to learn bar spins or do all this kind of thing. It was basically who was going bigger or better. Even on the street bikes, you know, you look at the Trials Kings and I compare what they were doing. Like, yeah, they were doing big bunny hop gaps, and you don't really see big bunny hop gaps on TGS bikes nowadays, but it was about the going bigger. And for us, and certainly for me, the amount I saw these guys pushing, I was like, oh, it can be done. You know, you can go that big. Excuse me. You can go that big and still not die, you know, and still be alive and get over the other side of that rail. And I remember we took a road trip over to Leeds one time from Hull, and seeing some of the lines in Leeds that we'd seen done by the Trials Kings. And my mind was absolutely blown. I was just gobsmacked at how big these guys were going. And because I thought we were pretty good. You know, and I think everybody does it. You think in your local area and who you locally ride with, you might be like, well, I'm better than X at this and he's better than me at that. But we're actually a pretty good standard, because back then you didn't have YouTube where you just went on and found someone and you could just go, oh, look, there's loads of spots in Doncaster or there's loads of spots in London. Let's go ride there. You just had this kind of word of mouth, and then this website came along with all these videos, and suddenly you're like, oh my word, these people are incredible. And so back then, the only time you ever got to see other riders other than going on a road trip was going to a comp. And then you'd see these people that you then suddenly started seeing in magazines like Danny Holroyd and all these guys, and you're just like, what is going on? Like, why is my standard so low? And then for me, it was just about progressing, and it was about pushing myself to go bigger and further as best as I could. Whereas I guess as I'm just reeling back to now quickly, like now I'm all about kind of dialing things in and making sure I don't do correction hops, a full Ryan Leach type thing. That's what I get really dialed in on. It's not about, just going further and a bigger drop.
Good timing,
whatever.
Ben, because the week before this one's released is Ryan Leach. I've already recorded it, so I'd be interested to listen to that one. We talk a lot.
I look forward to hearing that one.
Yeah,
that one's good.
Yeah,
Ryan's
the manifesto.
Well, I mean, even Ryan's one of these guys that, after Tricks and Stunts, along came Evolve, along came Revolution, all these other videos that again inspired us. It was suddenly like, oh, there's not just Martin Ashton. We don't just have to copy Martin Ashton. There's all these other guys. And then you see the likes of Ryan Leach and Jeff Lanowski and all these guys, and you're just like, whoa, wait a minute. People are over in the States doing this thing. It's not just us crazy people in Hull, doing this, and two guys in South Wales in the Martins doing it. There's loads of people doing this, and it just progressed you. I mean, obviously I splintered off towards the long, low TGS bike, but that was just my preference at the time, So I think I had a Curtis for a long time, and it was slowly I was putting like longer stem on it, bars, not full Carthy bar type thing, but bars with going further. And I'm like, I just wanted to go bigger and bigger in side ups and stuff like this. And I remember, I think my next bike after that was the Coustelier Onza T-Rex type bike. And I remember getting one of them after seeing Danny Butler riding his, and I was just like, that thing looks ace. Trials had started progressing, and I basically got into the side of going down, big side ups, big gaps, and just pushing my taps and stuff, and pushing myself as much as I could. Exactly. Yeah. And being from Hull, we didn't have a lot of natural spots, so it wasn't like you had to drive to Shipley or Addingham really to get a really decent natural spot. And when I got there, I was still just looking for the biggest gaps, the biggest side ups and stuff. And so I've always just considered myself a street TGS rider in reality. I've always been that way inclined. And even when I got onto my Hex and then now the 4Play, when I first went onto the street bikes, I was still doing the same stuff, but it was just I was trying to learn to bunny hop now rather than just tapping everything or just gapping over everything. So it was, even now I find myself just like, I see things and I just think, oh, that looks pretty big. I wonder if I can make that. And on my TGS bike, I could probably clear it, no problem. It'd be easy peasy. But again, it's just a challenge to be able to do it on a 4Play while still be able to 360 off something shoulder height or, all these other little things. And yeah, it's been a full circle that I still kind of come back to trying to do gaps and trying to do like bunny taps and all these little things.
It's
Ali
still the
keeps trying to convince me to get a Hex to go that way.
Of that, I always found a lot of the high level, let's say, street riders have a background of riding a bit of TGS. I feel like, do you think that directly contributes to your style now?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's kind of, I think, not to criticize any of the younger generation, but I think there's too many people kind of want to come into trials and or street trials, and they want to learn to foot jam whip. They want to backflip. They want to tail whip, bar spin, all this kind of stuff, which is great. And I'm glad they're joining the sport, but I'm all about the fundamentals. I think if I was becoming a tutor of trials to anyone, if I ever went down that route or somebody asked for a tip, my first tip is I want to be able to track stand, to be able to stand on one spot, kind of good control on your back ops, all this basic trials stuff, that balance, being able to ride a handrail, all this kind of stuff. Well, it can be boring. It can be, it takes a long time to learn. If you ask somebody to ride a bike along a handrail, they're not going to be able to do it first time unless they're pretty spectacularly talented. But if you don't have that fundamental, then all the other little things don't come into play. Like a foot jam whip isn't just necessarily about spinning the bike around as fast as you can. It's about balance. It's a balance point. And I'm not even great at them. And that's me telling someone to do them. It's, you know, the people that are doing like triple foot jam tail whips that you can see and things like that, they've got a perfect balance point. That's why they're able to do it. It's not because they're just like, oh, like this and hoping for the best. And I think a lot of the time, as I say, I've not to go on about it, but I was practicing basics for so long. You know, it took me like 5 or 6 years to learn basics.
Absolutely.
And people nowadays, you can go on YouTube and someone will teach you how to do this, you know, really difficult, complex tricks in a 5-minute YouTube video. And I just don't think it correlates. I think you've got to put the effort in. That's the problem with trials. And I think that's why I've outlasted quite a lot of people in terms of friends I used to ride with that don't really ride any longer, because again, as you talked about before, they reach a plateau and they think, oh, that's it, that's as good as I can get, and they're not willing to push through it. But yeah, having the TGS basics, the ability to balance on the back wheel and just hold it. I mean, anybody who rides TGS and knows how Damon side hops, for example, you know, there's no messing about on the back wheel. He'll get up on his back wheel and he'll just stand there.
Yeah.
And then he preloads and he does this huge preload and he bounces up like he's done like a 60-inch side hop, I believe, plus back in the day. So mad. Not too long ago. And that's insane. And then for people who a bit more recent, who've seen the likes of Jack Carthy and some of the really good TGSs, I've forgotten, who's this Swedish guy that's just riding a Hex at the minute?
You are
him.
What
I mean?
You are
I
him.
think you guys have shared a few things.
Yeah, you are him. Yeah, that's actually how you say his name.
He's got a comp background.
Yeah.
Joachim. Yeah, he's got a comp background, and you look at his balance, and then look how it translates onto his street bike, and that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from he's just naturally talented. It comes from years of practice doing TGS and comp style riding. That's really, is really well balanced, and that's key to me.
And it seems a natural progression for most trials riders who've had that kind of TGS style. You're like, cool, now I know how to maneuver the bike. It kind of feels like some riders hit a plateau where they're like, right, I can't side up any bigger, right, or I can't gap any bigger, blah. Yeah. Then they're like, let me get an inspired bike then. Let me try and adapt these moves that I do, and this time I'll roll between the moves.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a natural progression. If you can't feel like you're getting bigger, you basically get more creative. But then there are people like yourself and Duncan who actually, or Danny, who actually try and do all of it. They get creative, but they're still driving to go bigger and do the kind of the bigger moves. But I think you're a case study of that, Ben. Like you just mentioned it, which I was going to say. You just mentioned it saying, oh, I'm still riding. Like some other mates haven't carried on, or they didn't feel that kind of buzz, but you've obviously changed your style ever so slightly and then given yourself like more opportunities to have fun on smaller obstacles, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100. I mean, it's funny because the couple of guys I ride up here with in Aberdeen, so there's Joe Urquhart, Gav Watt and Adam Maguire. They're fairly new, so less than 5 years, I think, in reality, trials riding. And I've been riding trials longer than they've been alive. That's pretty, I don't know if that's sad or impressive or what, but this is the thing for me, is it's not so much, I think I reached, a bit of both. Yeah. I reached a point with my TGS bike that I realized that if I wanted to go bigger, I was going to have to spend more time in the gym. I kind of honed my technique to be able to reach my limit. And it was all about, I would have to start going to the gym. And for me, going to the gym to improve riding my bike just wasn't worth it, because I wasn't going to get rich and famous from, riding trials, although that turned out to be the wrong idea. It's kind of, I wasn't interested in that. I wasn't interested in going and doing squats just to get bigger side ups or, all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to ride my bike because I found it fun.
Yeah.
And when I got the swap and I thought, I'm going to try out a Hex, is that, of course I'd seen April 09 and I'd seen all this other stuff and thought, oh, that looks a bit interesting. And it was just I needed a bit of a change. I knew I could go and side up stuff. And of course I got onto it and I couldn't side up 50 inches anymore. And I was just like, oh, I don't like this. And it took me a while to get used to, but then I learned how to do big bunny hop gaps. I learned how to do reasonable sized bunny hops to rear or into front. And it was just a new technique. And it's, and then from that led into, I'm going to try and learn 360s. I'm going to try and learn all this other bits and pieces. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I think, as I say, I've outlasted quite a lot of people. So there was the first group of friends. I think there's only one who still rides his mountain bike. I don't think any of the guys ride trials. And then, I've seen a group up in Aberdeen when I moved up here. They kind of all just grew out of it and went and did other things. And one of the guys has kind of come back, a guy called Towler. He's kind of started up again. He was the same. He got on he bought at Joe Urquhart's old foreplay, and he was just like, oh, this is different. This is fun. I like this, and yeah, of course he can't go as big as he used to, but he's learning something new. Yeah. And it's just that, life can get in the way, but if you just kind of keep learning something, and as I say, for me, it was all about, I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to riding. I mean, if you ever speak to Mark Westlake, who has done quite a bit of filming for me.
Being a perfectionist can be hard work.
Yeah, no, it can. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things. Is that I'll film a line and I'll look at it, and someone else will be like, they'll be fist out, ready to bump me, like, oh my God, that was, that's exactly what you wanted, right? And I look at it and I'm just like, no, that is horrible.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I hopped there. No, not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just little things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. There's plenty of, if people want to call me out, then feel free. But there's plenty of lines I've put in videos where I've not quite been happy with what I had there, but it was the best I could get after 2 hours of trying the same trick, and I'm just like, I need to finish this video, and I need to move on and try something new, So I'm not claiming that everything I've put out is perfect, but when it comes to doing something, I just like to really dial it in before I put it out there, or I let anybody else see me doing it, just because it's just kind of the way I am,
The best possible version of that trick.
That's the thing, is the whole. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think. I mean, you look at the top comp riders. Does anybody really think that they're not just really dialing in techniques? They don't spend hours dialing in techniques. Charlie Rolls doesn't just able to do like a drop 180 hook off like an 8-foot wall, just first time because he wants to. He's dialed that technique in to be able to do things like that and have that much control. It's the big 10,000 hours thing, where you put that much effort into learning something, you reap the rewards. But yeah, it's I think you've just got to change it up, trials. I think if you do the same thing for 15 years and you're just doing the same taps, you're going to get bored.
Well, Danny Holroyd's another example of that. I don't know if you've seen, recently got himself a trials bike again, and he's taken that kind of route. The last bike before this one was his signature 24/7 TGS kind of thing, and he knew in his podcast, like, well, I'm not going to go back to that. I'm not just going to go and big ass taps. I'm going to try and combine it all and do that kind of, learn new tricks, as you say, because he knows how to do the tap. So let's try and do some spins and so forth. Now, you did mention about some projects then, which you're quite well known for, some fantastic videos, Ben, I must say. So thank you from all the trials community, even someone who's done like TGS. You've done all of the riding, which is why I think people love your style. Most recently, you brought out another 3 days in London, which was way back in 2018. Then you did a 3 days in London 2, a second one, which is quite a recent project. Anyone who hasn't seen that, just pause this for 1 minute, go and watch that video, because it's really good. But the second one, you had a bit of a story behind that. It didn't quite finish it. Do you want to tell the listeners what kind of happened? They might not know that you injured yourself during a ride. Filming what happened?
So, well, the premise behind the video is quite obvious with the title. I had 3 days in London, and it was the second time I was doing it. And Mark Westlake and I had planned this trip, and I, as I said to you briefly before, when I make a video, I basically make a Google map of every spot I can think of. And in London, I know how well ridden London is. I'm not naive enough to think that. And I thought I need to go and find different things that people haven't ridden. So we were, I think, certainly on the first one, I think Mark, on the first one video we did, Mark put a Strava trip in. And I think we did like 16 or 18 miles or something like that on 2 trials bikes over the day, and I'm
What?
talking basically a big loop of London,
That's a
So
lot. It's a lot of miles on a
yeah,
trials bike.
yeah, it wasn't. It's one of those where you just all you want after the first day is just like, I just want a bath. Like, go away. I don't want to have to ride my bike
And
again
like London's
tomorrow.
so tiring, man. Like obviously, I live here too, and I know how exhausting it is to find new spots and how
Yeah,
spread out they were. But sorry, go on.
yeah, no. So we put a lot of miles in. So anyway, the second time I came back and I'd had a couple of things that were on the list from the first video that we didn't get around to either going to, or I didn't get quite as I'd wanted. So I thought, right, we'll go back and try and dial some things in. And it's just fun. It's fun catching up with Mark, and we had a good time riding. But on the second one, it ended up having to be 2 trips, because on the first trip I had a bit of a fall, you could say. So
A bit of a fall, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a fall, yeah. So
I didn't know this, so you'll have to repeat it to the listeners who don't know. I just sort of learned
No,
this
that's
yesterday.
fine. It's all right. So so we'd hit a few spots in the morning of the first day on the first trip, and things were going well. I think both Mark and I were quite pleased with how, it's kind of like maybe not first time tricks, but things were happening fairly quickly. I wasn't wasting loads of time, like trying to get stuff dialed. And I just got my new Inspired Arcade, so the gold one when it came out. I'd had it like 2 weeks, so I'd had that, and I was like, this feels. Oh, I'm feeling so good. I hadn't felt as good on my bike in such a long time. I was like, this is perfect. And I'd seen this wall ride spot in a couple of videos previously, I think some BMX videos. So as I said, I do a lot of research. So I watch hundreds of London BMX videos, trials videos, everything. And I'm like using the video to find street names, so I've got quite a spot map if anybody wants it.
Investigator there. I've got
exactly.
Chris Jackson on the Shindig is very much the same, so I know what that's like. Spending up late at night, like street view.
Yes, 100%. That is me. Yeah. So I'd found this in the Back and Beyond. I'd found it based off a petrol station I'd seen in the background, and then street viewed it and found it. Anyway, so I was like, this looks good. I think I can do it. It's not like a strong point of my riding, but I thought, I think I can do it. It's like a 2-second clip. It's just filler. I don't need to spend ages doing it. So we set up, Mark's got all his cameras set up, a tripod. He's got everything dialed in. I hit it once. I was like, oh, that wasn't bad. I thought I could get a bit higher. I hit it twice. This is all filmed, all done.
Yep.
Landed it, rode away from it. And Mark had basically said to me, dude, I think you got it. You don't need to do any more.
Yeah.
And I said so I wasn't a believer in the karma of one more try, but I am now, as I'll tell you in a minute. But
yeah,
I just said to him, I said, oh, Mark, I think I can get this tiny bit better. I think I've got it. It just felt like I wasn't as high as I could go. And anyway, so it's basically a flat, where is my camera? A flat bank to a vertical wall like this. And it's in the middle of the video, right in the middle. And you'll see that I basically eat a whole lot of crap on the third attempt. So this was the third attempt. So the clips that you see in the video after of me making it were actually filmed first. And the first one, the actual crash you see where I hit the deck.
It just feels backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. But I wasn't going back to this spot to try and improve the clip we had.
Yeah.
It's one of these. I've actually thought about it since. I kind of want to go back and face my fear a bit. But it's anyway. So So on this other one, my front wheel clipped the wall on the vertical wall, and pushed my bike away from me, and I ended up kind of landing on my left elbow into my left hand side where my spleen is, and that left elbow actually has a metal pin through it from a previous crash that I had a couple of years back. And so I think that's landed in my spleen, basically landed on top of it. And I think, I don't want to big it up, but I would say I fell from about 6 feet straight onto my elbow, like underneath me.
It must have been some height to rupture it. Like that's not an easy, even if you were just to do that.
Well, that's it. So if you think I'm kind of trapped underneath myself like this, it's just gone like up like that, and basically had all the momentum from about 6 feet, landed basically like flat. So the side of my head hit the floor as well, but obviously I had my helmet on. Yeah. And anyway, so I thought I'd winded myself. The crash, I didn't make any crying or screaming noises, which probably would have made the video a bit better. But it was thinking about the footage, wondering how the angle looked. But yeah, so we we got up. We're in fairly North London. I can't really remember the exact location right now, but yeah, I thought I just winded myself. I had that, and I thought I've just winded myself.
Yeah.
We'll just crack on. We'll get up, I said to Mark, maybe we'll just cruise back towards town and back towards the hotel because we were actually staying at the Wandsworth roundabout near there, so it's quite far away.
Oh wow, yeah. Because if you're in North, where I live, up at like Finsbury way, going to Wandsworth
Yeah.
is it must have been about an hour and a half for you guys to travel.
Oh
If you're on
yeah,
the bikes.
it would have been. Yeah. So so anyway, we're riding back, and I said to Mark, I need some juice. I need something to eat. Like I just feel like I've gone a bit pale at this point. I just felt like I'm winded. Bruised myself up because I could walk. I could move my arms. I could do all that. I didn't feel that painful. My stomach felt a bit tight, but it could have just been
a bit
bruising.
uncomfortable, basically. Then,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so we're riding through, and then we got some food, had a little stop, and then I'd seen this spot on the way past, and I tried to ride it, did a little side up and some other stuff. And I was like, no, I'm not really feeling anything. My stomach's feeling a bit tight. We should probably just go back to the hotel, rest for the rest of the day, and then we'll come back out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so this was it'd been about 40 minutes since my accident, or since I'd crashed. And then we were riding back through a fairly affluent part of central northern London. Some houses either side of us that were desperately on the side of not under 10 million. And
Yeah.
and I said to Mark, "Oh, Mark, I just need to sit down. Like, please, I just need to sit down." And he looked over at me and he's like, "Oh my God, you are white. You're just like," there was
Like
no
a
color in my
ghost.
face. Yeah, exactly. No color in my face or anything like that. And so I laid down. And again, so here's me laid on my back in my trials gear with 2 trials bikes in really affluent London, just in the middle of a pavement, like groaning. And I said to Mark, I said, "Can you where's the nearest hospital? Like, should we phone an ambulance?" And he says, "Well, it's just around the corner. You can maybe get an Uber." I said, "No, get an Uber. Don't get an ambulance. We'll get an Uber."
Yeah.
So Mark threw me in an Uber, and and then he wandered back he rode back to the hotel with the 2 bikes for me. So thanks very much for that, Mark. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
And so I'm in A&E. Also, I wandered into A&E, and the triage doctor told me I was just winded, and that I just needed. There's something that's not quite A&E in London in some of the hospitals. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's not
It's almost like
minor injuries.
minor injuries clinic, but
emergency. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was called like T&A or something like. Anyway, so can't remember where he sent me off to. So he sent me off to this, and I get to this building, and at this point my stomach is rock solid, but I couldn't be upright. I had to be like keeled over to hold it, and I'm like, there's something not quite right here. So I get into this, and then I get to the reception there, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you've come down from A&E." He says, "Yeah, well, it's going to be like a 3 or 4 hour wait." And I said, "Mate, there's something really wrong with me here. I really need to see someone. Can I go back to accident emergency?" So he's like, "Well, if you want to try, but they'll probably just send you back." So I went back up, and the same guy came and saw me, and he said, "Listen, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You'll be fine. Just go back down there. You're just winded. I think it's maybe just some bruising. You'll be fine." So that's fine. Well, it wasn't fine. I was pretty angry at that point.
But you were believing him because you're saying, "Oh, okay, I trust you because you're a professional."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
I went back down, and obviously I'd lost my place in the queue at this point. So it was back to so I think it was like 4 or 5 hours later, I finally got saw by someone, and the guy laid me on the bed, and he's like prodding around my stomach, and honestly, I've never been so close to punching someone in my life. I had that moment where he just touched one point in my stomach, which was down underneath where my spleen was. And I had to like grip the side of the bed, and I screamed, and I heard the rest of the place go silent because his door was open. And so the whole of the room where I was waiting went silent because I screamed so loud. And so he was like, "So how painful is it?" And I'm just like, "Well, I just showed you that. It's pretty painful." Anyway,
I'm screaming, bruv.
Yeah. So he immediately got on the phone, and then they took me to the major injuries unit, straight in, basically like tearing my clothes off me, like getting me CT scanned, and it turns out I'd had a grade 4 ruptured spleen. So the grade 5 is basically complete obliteration. Your spleen
Okay,
is
that's what I was
in
going to
a
ask. So
million
5 is
pieces.
like done. Is the top one.
5's done. 4 is it's pretty badly ruptured. You've maybe, I think, I can't remember what it is exactly. I'm sure it's something like, if you've basically got like 30% of your spleen not obliterated.
Oh,
It's
wow.
basically in percentages. It's how bad it
Yeah.
is. So it turned out it was a grade 4 ruptured spleen. And I ended up with 5-6 days in hospital, just on basically the worst painkillers ever.
So
I had to have
the 3 days in London turned into 7 days in London, basically.
a full week down there, at least, and basically was told I had to basically sign myself out of hospital because I had to get back to Aberdeen. I had work. I had to get back to work. I could walk and do all this kind of stuff. I was fine, but I remember that they wouldn't let me fly because of the obviously the spleen. So they didn't. So just going back quickly, they didn't take it out. They had to do a splenectomy, which is basically they blocked one of the arteries into my spleen, so I don't get full blood flow through my spleen now. Yeah. So it's still in. I didn't have a big operation, but it was basically an operation through the groin, and they put something up from my veins all the way up into my spleen, which I got to watch on the screen while he was doing it. So that was quite cool. They had to shave some private bits and all like this to be able to insert this.
Must have been weird. I mean, we've had some weird injuries. That one there especially seems like quite a serious one.
No, it was. I mean, to be fair, it was interesting because the guy, when I first got into the major injuries unit, the guy basically said to me, "So when did you do this?" And I was looking at my watch on my phone. And I was like, "Well, it must have been like 6 hours ago." And he said, "Actually, one of the best things that's happened to you is you've waited so long because your spleen has had a chance to start healing itself. So it started clotting." And he says, if you'd have come in at the time you'd have done this, we'd have just looked at it and gone, "That's horrendous. We're taking your spleen right out." So by being stubborn and trying to ride it off, I actually probably saved having some form of spleen, although
that sounds so weird. That doesn't even sound like that would be the correct way to do it. If something goes wrong, you're like, right, this needs to be fixed now.
Yeah, well, that was it. Well, as he says, because of the state the top side of my spleen was in, that it wouldn't have been worth saving. But because they wouldn't have known whether it would have clotted, and they would have had to have spent so much time dealing with the internal bleeding. But by trying to ride it off, which is mad to even think that I was trying that I had full internal bleeding and could barely stand up a couple of hours later. Wow. And I was trying to, and I'd done a couple of side ups on this, with this.
So after it happened, you actually you did do a little bit of riding. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I was, we'd stopped and I was like, "Oh, Mark, I can maybe try, let me just see what it's like to ride with, and because I just thought I'd badly bruised myself, so I was like, I'll do it. Not anything major. I think it was like a bar height side hop, and then I'd like rode off the wall, did a little gap, and Mark was just like, "Oh, well, how does it feel?" And I was like, "Not great," So it's
just trying to be a real man, like, "Yeah, I'll battle through it. Yeah, let's get this video done, Mark. Come on."
Well, that was it, because we only had 3 days in London, so I thought I didn't want to waste Mark's time having done it. And anyway, I did waste Mark's time, but he stuck around and helped. He came into the hospital, and him and his wife Nikki sorted out my bike and took it up to Tarty Bikes, and then Tarty Bikes posted it out back up to Aberdeen for me. So thanks. Excuse me. Thanks very much to them guys.
Yeah, I know they've looked after you for a very long time, haven't they, Ben? I think
they did. They got rid of me for a little bit because I didn't ride any of their products, so I didn't really have a leg to stand on. And then they brought me back in, so they have looked after me.
So this takes me back because I remember this must be like 10 years ago now. I remember you riding a speed race, or didn't you ride for speed race? Is that no?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Is that the time you're on about?
Yeah. So basically, I'd ridden with. So I joined Adamant at the same time as Damon got Adamant. So when Damon was riding for Adamant, and obviously the Deng days, yeah. So obviously we had Tarty Bikes were sponsored. They had Echo, they had Adamant, they had Cesar, all these kind of companies. So I think initially I rode for did I ride for Cesar and then Adamant? Anyway, so I got a bike and I was riding.
I remember you having a white one, didn't you? You had that white.
Yeah, that was the Cesar. Yeah, the Cesar or Czar, however you want to say it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
So I was riding that, and then I got an Adamant or vice versa. I can't remember. And then I think something came up that I'd seen this speed race, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. I quite like that. So I contacted them. They offered me a deal, and then they were talking about building a custom bike, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd be interested in that. So we built one with like I always really liked the Kenny Belay carbon top tube bike.
Yes.
So my plan, and I'd seen that Stan Shaw had actually kind of built his own. He'd kind of cut a frame up and then put a carbon tube in a frame and stuff. And I was like, that looks really cool. I like that.
It did. It was the first days, wasn't it, of getting weight weenies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'd come up with this design with speed race and a geometry, and kind of I'd ridden it for a bit. And then I think at this point, Tati were doing a bit of an overhaul of their team, because I think they still had like Rowan on the team, who maybe wasn't riding as much. They had all these kind of other guys that they were just looking at and like, well, we need to progress, you know?
Yeah.
And so I got culled. Not cruelly. They were very nice about it.
No,
so
I'm
I can't
sure.
complain.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to ride a speed race, we don't sell that. I'm really sorry.
We don't sell that bike or any of the components you're using. So we can't really offer you anything, because you're not, you might make videos with our name in, but they can't buy any of the products. And I was like, that's fine. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. So I think I was a bit gutted at the time. But
it is understandable. Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I soon got over it. And then, just kind of went from there. And I think with the speed race, I was actually only on the speed race I think I only rode it for like 6 to 9 months or something. And then I was just like, I'm just not enjoying TGS anymore. And this was
so
at the
that
point
was
I
the
was
tipping point, was sort of 10 years ago then, because I think it was the same time. I remember Kieran Whitefield was sponsored by Speed Race at the same sort of time.
Okay, yeah.
And then he got sent a frame, was like, don't like it, and he gave it to me. That's how I remember. And I was like, I just got a free brand new frame from Speed Race.
Nice. Yeah. It was good. To be fair, the one I had was actually, it wasn't that bad. And my friend Ricky Towler, he had it for a while. But it was super long. It was just one of those, and all I was doing was taps and gaps on it. And I was I'd ridden a few people's hexes, I think, and I'd seen Ali was riding the hex, and how good he. I mean, as if I could be compared to Ali in terms of skill, but
yeah,
no, definitely not. We won't go down that route. Maybe we look alike, but there's no skill match there. Ali is far superior, but they Ali was riding the hex, and I was just like, that looks so much fun. Obviously, Danny had released April 09, and I knew how he rode anyway, and I was like, it just looks fun. I was just bored of doing side ups. That was it, and it was getting to the point where I was going out on my own a lot, because a lot of people weren't riding anymore and stuff like this, and I just thought, I need to change things up and do something a bit different. Otherwise, I'm going to be quitting fairly soon, you know?
Yeah, you'll get bored. No, I understand. You've got to keep things interesting, you know?
Yeah. So, but no, they were decent enough bikes. Yeah. And then I moved to the Hex, and then slowly over time, obviously proved myself back to Tati, and they've brought me back on, which was a couple of years ago now.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That was kind of the year, or 2010 was really the start where Inspired just kind of ruled a bit of the trials world for a few years, right? This is how.
Yeah. Well,
really
definitely after Danny's video, I don't think they could keep up with demand in reality, you know. And then the Hex was the perfect blend of a bit of street plus trialsy stuff for people like myself, who I used to ride Danny's foreplay, and I'd go on Danny's foreplay and just be like, what is this? This is horrible. It's too small. Like, you know, you're banging your legs on it all the time.
It's really short, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was basically just riding it wrong. My body position was all wrong because I was so used to the TGS position, the trials position, and the Hex was that nice balance between that. So I remember getting a Hex from Dave at Inspired. He sorted me out with one on a little deal and just loved it, you know. And then kind of, I just realized that actually that's what I was doing 10 years before that, and that was how we rode. And actually, I really except I wasn't able to bunny up back in the day. I didn't really understand
have the bikes
technique
for it. Really, they weren't like the perfect trials bikes.
No,
still
exactly.
Didn't exist, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it was. It's just kind of a full circle for me coming back all the way. Except for now, I'm on a 24-inch rather than the 26-inch. So.
Yeah, and that was kind of your starting journey and joining the Inspired family. At that point, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so I did a bit with him. To be fair, I'm fortunate because I've known Dave Inspired for a long time. So Dave, obviously, for people that don't know, started Tarty Bikes with Adam at Tarty Bikes, and Dave actually used to live in Hull, so he's from my neck of the woods. So we kind of crossed paths here and there and knew each other through that. And I think I've always just been very open with Dave on what I think of things in terms of products or anything like that. And to be fair, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not somebody who's getting, I wasn't getting free bikes or anything like that. I was getting a little bit of discount because I think Dave understood that I would make an edit, I would make a video, and I'd put their logo on for a percentage.
You were bringing
off
them value as well. He's like, look, I can't give you all this for free, which is, trials is like that. That's fine. So give and receive, and he was more than happy for you to go, just tell everyone you're on and inspired.
Do it. And just, I mean, this was before Instagram. Facebook was around, but it wasn't the way it's used now. It was just, you were putting pictures up of your dog when you were out for a walk, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's not for trials and marketing and stuff initially, but then it's just one of these things. My marketing was, I would put out an edit, and I was I wasn't quite like Joe Mayer with his 1,000 videos a year, but I was putting out videos. I don't know how he
churned them out quite a bit, didn't he?
But I was putting out videos fairly regularly. So, we were just on point and zoom video cameras, and we put out loads of videos. So for Dave, I guess in reality, it was just some marketing for, let's say, I don't know, less than 10% off a bike or whatever it was. And it just reinvigorated things for me. I got on it and I was like, oh, I can learn again. And I must admit, I felt absolutely awful on this bike. I was just like, I don't know how to ride it. I'm not that great. I'm just, what am I doing? I've made the wrong decision. I used to be at a certain level, and now I'm down here. It was hard initially, and then I got used to it, and I'm just like, this is so fun. And I think, like, looking at the whole split between trials, I think things has come, people seem to be a bit more open to it now, but this whole kind of split between the comp scene and the TGS scene versus street, I've never liked it, because I'll do it on any bike. I'll do it on all the bikes. It's kind of, I'm still, what I'll do, I'll go out and I'll see, I don't spot, oh, I could 180 off that ledge. I see, oh, I could do that big rolling gap, or I could do a big static gap on that. Maybe I'll be doing it with a 180 in it. I'll be doing a 180 gap rather than just a static across it. But all these little things.
The principle is still the same. You're like, I'm traveling from here to here, and I'll make it my own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I think that's the thing a lot of people forget, is that we shouldn't be grouping ourselves. I think trials is so individual, because you perceive it different to the way Tom would perceive it, or how I would perceive it. And you just go, you might see a side up to a really tech hook that I'm just like, well, I'm just going to bunny up to rear on it, because I can't do that tech hook. It's this kind of thing. And it's an individual sport, and that's how it should, it's not about grouping everybody into one and saying, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. But yeah, having the hex and stuff totally reinvigorated things for me. And and then brought me back full circle, as I say, to being sponsored by Tati again. So that was nice.
Yeah, I know. And you're producing some great videos, as always, Ben. I think we're living in 2021 now, where I'll use my term, trials tapas is a thing, because you just bang up a 6-second clip of a really nice line, or, so on and so forth. But I know that you're still a strong contender who's going to be bringing out, like projects, like actual full-on videos and things like that. And I think that's still important, even though there's less of them.
Well, I think it is. I mean, the thing is that you look at the people who now are doing really well, the Fabios, the Dannys, these kind of people. Obviously Danny does, these kind of guys are doing daily social medias, but they're putting out stuff that we all know they could do, like on straightforward. Yeah, it's a good clip, but they're saving like the real stuff that they've been thinking about, they've been learning, they've maybe been out practicing, that you've never seen. Front flips off Edinburgh Castle, you save that for an edit,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's just the way social media has led us all, isn't it? It's kind of we've all got short attention spans for the most part now. So it's kind of, you see, I mean, if anybody follows any BMXs or anything like that, people are putting double backflips up for breakfast, I'll do that. And then they're releasing a clip 24 hours later that just pushes it down the line, and everybody's forgotten this guy just learned a double backflip.
Yeah,
and he's just put it on his Instagram.
It does get lost. That's why the whole idea of, like I was saying, it's really happy that you're still making like full-on projects, because those are the things that have a lasting impact.
I think so. Yeah.
Rather than just digesting it and then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I've always said it in a lot of things, and I remember watching an edit of Charlie Rolls, a video. I think it was maybe one of your guys' earlier ones, and I did say is that Charlie just needs to make a video where he plans things out, and it's not just I know that it's the way like Jack and Charlie ride, for example, where they'll just be like, they treat everything like a comp. So it's just like bam, 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 bam. Yeah. And then I'll go, but the cameraman doesn't know what he's doing. So I think that's the thing, is that, so just as an example, if I'm filming a line with Mark or Adam Maguire, then we plan it out, and he'll say, well, should I film it from here? Or should I film it from here? What do you think to a second angle from here? And I think that's the thing where, for the likes of Charlie and Jack and all of these guys, for things to go boom for them, I think they need that kind of level of project, not just hoping that they might get a gap like the Spanish comp rider, where he did that gap over the water and his Instagram went absolutely mental.
Oh yeah, Sergi. I think it was Sergi. Was it Sergi that did that? Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the thing, is that hoping just for a bit of TikTok fame, might work, but the reality of it is, if you put something out that you can be really proud of, you'll look back on it in years to come. And I think that, don't get me wrong, my videos don't get millions of views. They might get the odd couple of thousand and stuff, partly because people don't have the time, I think. But also, I want to be able to look back on them in 15, 20 years. And when my wee man's grown up, for him to go, oh, that's what Dad used to do, So it's that, kind of thing.
I couldn't agree more, mate. This is, it's one of those things where, this is like you were saying, you're making your mark with some videos, and I think what helps Mark and other people who are also riders, that's important. If they're capturing it, they have a much better understanding. It's leaving Trials' mark on the internet, on that.
I think
making sure we're out there now. And it's the same thing with when we're doing the shindig. It's like, well, I don't really make proper edits anymore. I used to years ago.
Yeah.
But then I accepted that I'm not. But I was like, what I can do is talk. So why the hell don't I just put that on there, like what we're doing right now?
Well, it's. I think the problem is it's trying to put out quantity over quality. It's kind of. I've never been one for putting out daily clips, because I don't ride enough to do it, and B, it just feels like I'm putting it up for the sake of it, and then you actually end up looking into putting up a clip that isn't really that great. And you might get 300, 400 likes, maybe more, depending on how many followers you've got, but. For the most part, because you do it, that you're just going tap, tap, double click, swipe, touch, and you just click in. You've done it, and you've forgotten about it. Move on. You're already looking at the next person's clip. It's not often I sit there and like watch clips on Instagram for like on repeat. Whereas I have a playlist of video. I've got a playlist of videos on YouTube, like trials specific videos that I go and watch to get me motivated for trials. If I'm going out, or I'll watch at lunchtime before I'm going out that evening or whatever, or on the night before I'm going out on the weekend, something to get me like really pumped up to go, I'm going to go try that or try this. But I don't do that with Instagram. I look at it and I go, oh, why am I even on my phone? So.
Just to remind people that we're alive and doing that. It's like, you can't beat them. You've got to join them.
No, exactly.
Just to kind of share that. So again, mate, it's all the projects are really important, even though it seems like there's less of them. I think that's because now they become even more important, because we're consuming more. And you hit the nail on the head there. I was saying all the proper creative good moves go onto the big projects, and then stuff that we are familiar with, which just means Danny's growing his audience, or you, or anyone actually who's putting a basic clip up. Somebody else sees it like, wow, that's impressive. But us trials rider go, I know he can go better than that.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that if we want to grow this, the thing is, I think there's a mixed barrel, right? Some people want to grow the sport. Some people want it to be niche and small and not have loads of random people coming in. It's a really hard balance. And I'm on the fence on that one, because I think if it was to grow exponentially, we wouldn't have the bikes, and it just get diluted with, slightly interested people. Whereas I think for a long time, certainly from back in my era, as I say, there's, Danny's only a couple of years younger than me. Duncan's only a couple of years younger than me, or maybe a couple of years younger than that. Ali's a bit older than me, and we're still here doing it. I know that Adam Reed is, who owns Tarty Bikes. He's a bit older and still doing it. Maybe not as much as he would have done back in the day, but it's because you've got a passion for it.
Massive.
You've got a passion for it. Whereas if you get people who are just doing it because they think they can get famous on TikTok or Instagram or something, then it's not really what you want to push the sport, because eventually the people who are putting the money in will just go, we've got what we needed from this, see you later, So it's a really hard balance. But in the same manner, you don't want people to look at the sport when they go on Instagram or on YouTube and just be like, oh my God, this is just people dressed up as rabbits going around skate parks on bikes. You know, that's what is that? Whereas when you've got the style of Danny, or you've got the style of Jack, and the skill set they've got and the moves they can do on bikes, and you can blow people's minds with that. But people running around skate parks dressed up and things like that, that's not what trials should be for me. And I don't think we should be milking it for that in the same manner.
No, and definitely informing people that you don't just jump on an inspired bike and learn these tricks. It's just something that I keep drilling into many. They're like, well, actually, no, get that bike first and then move. There's a missing. Obviously, no offense to Inspire, because they want to sell bikes. I do understand that, and it makes it difficult to be like, well, cool, this is Danny, you want to ride like him. This is Ben, you want to ride like him. Here's the bike. Yeah. But there's this like missed opportunity of that understanding where this is why they are the way they are.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the thing is you can learn the basics on the bikes we've got.
Yeah,
simply
I should say that. It's not. There's no wrong.
You can learn them on all the bikes. I think having knowledge of the sport and understanding. I don't want you to be able to recite where it came from in the 70s with Monty and stuff like that. But coming in and just going, oh, that looks easy, and then I've done a couple of back hops. I can do it like, X, Y, or Z. That's as I say, it took me a year to learn to back up across the street, and that's not by no means an exaggeration. We didn't have YouTube for people to teach you how to back up, so 3 backups was like a blow my mind. I need to go and sleep for 12 hours kind of situation.
The progression is completely different now than what it was.
100%.
Back then,
things obviously change, but I think if you learn the basics and the fundamentals of trials and how to use your bike and rolling about on 2 wheels, and not just immediately learning to back up, learn to track stand, learn to be able to balance on a rock that is only the length of your bike without hopping about all over the place, is really key to being as good as possible on your bike. And then from that point, the other tricks that you want to learn, the tech tricks, the big tricks, will be easier because you have better bike control. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, you've got to learn to walk before you run. It's a cliche term.
It's true. It's very true. And I think it's very applicable to trials anyway. So
no, it does kind of work. All right. Well, I've got one last question, and then we'll sort of go into the finishing up. But what was you have all these videos? What was your favorite particular project that you did, Ben?
Of my videos?
Yeah, of your videos specifically.
Do you know, I think probably my first edit down in Bristol. So it's Ben Travis Bristol Street Trials, I think.
2018?
Oh, I think it would have been, yeah. 17? So yeah, that's right. I think so. Just 2017, I'd moved down to Bristol for 6 weeks for some work. And I brought my bike with me. And I thought, well, I'll film a little edit. And it slowly got in. And obviously Bristol's well known with a lot of people in trials. And it was the same as like my
amazing street place to ride. Amazing.
Exactly,
yeah, amazing.
I didn't want to ride the same spots everybody had done. I wanted to go find new things that I hadn't seen people done. I mean, it's pretty hard when the likes of Rowan Johns lives there and he's rinsed it silly. But even then, I wanted to try and find things that I'd never seen him really do in a video. So I spent a lot of time hunting Bristol, cycling all around Bristol, just me, my tripod, and a couple of clips I think Mark filmed in the first one. And just spent a lot of time. And by this point, I felt pretty comfortable. I was on my red arcade at this point, and I'd got fairly comfortable on the street bikes, and I was feeling at a decent level. And then, it just went really well. I don't think I had any big crashes or a couple of crashes, because I made a little edit of crashes afterwards, but nothing that was, killer. It was all good. And I just really proud with how it came out. I could have done a bit of color correcting and better editing, I think, but
we all say
it's
that.
a video.
Every time we put something out, I get it. For those who haven't
like
watched it, it is really good. I think it is literally called Ben Travis Bristol Street Trials. It seems like it created a lot of traction. I think it's almost on like 30,000 views, which for a trials videos, that's usually it's about the right terms of success. Is the
that one went well. I was pretty pleased with how that one's done. So
interesting. I wanted to find out, because that's one of my favourites that you did. I don't know what it was. It was just I love Bristol, and I know some of those areas. So I think
it helps if you can relate to it, right? Because you can relate to the sports. You're like, oh, flipping out, that's that. He's just done that on that, or he's done it that way. That's quite, Whereas I think me living in Aberdeen, it's hard. So I just put out one recently with my new foreplay. And I think it's a bit harder for people to relate to because not many people have ridden Aberdeen, certainly, from you guys down south or in England. There's only really a handful I know that have been up and are like, oh, that, they know that spot. And it's the same with London. I think the reason London did quite well, the London videos did quite well, is because people know London. So they'll have seen some of the spots and they're like, oh, right, okay, that's pretty big, right?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah, I know where some of those things are, even though we've never ridden them. And I thought, what the hell? Why have we never been there before?
Yeah, exactly.
And watching that one a few months ago, I was going, right, let's go on that Ben Travis vid. I bet he's been somewhere we haven't. Come on, let's look through this. Exactly the same thing that you were doing. Just like, well, we're in London. Surely we can find this.
If you guys want the spot map, I've still got it. So I can send
brilliant,
you a link
mate. No, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm hoping we wanted to get a few of you down for a London ride. Maybe we'll take you
definitely.
to some new spots that we've been
that'd be good. I'd be keen for that anytime.
Absolutely, mate. No, I really would love to get you down on one of our vlogs there. Like I say,
I'd be up for that
because I'm no media I'm not necessarily an editor. That's why we call it vlogs. We can make it as raw as we want, and we bring out quantity, not the quality. Fly on the wall. Everyone can see what I do on a weekend and what I do.
That's what we used to do back in the day, though. That's what videos were. I mean, obviously people still made the old single edits, or the Trials Kings made their little group ride edits and stuff, but that was filmed over a period of time. But back in the day, it was all these big group rides, and you just used to film what people were doing. So you had people in the background taking the piss, dancing about, falling off in the background. Whereas now it's a little bit more focused on, right, okay, we need to make sure the camera shot's right. We need to make it something proper. Whereas sometimes I wish I could be less like that, and I would just go, oh, I'm just filming this because we're out, But that's what goes on. That's what goes on Instagram nowadays,
Well, you've already got quite a high. You've got quite a high level of video. So I think once you get to that next stage, it's much harder to come down and go, oh, just film this on my phone. Like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've put the effort in. Yeah, once you've put the effort in, it's hard. But I'd be well up for that. We definitely should do it.
Yeah, mate. Good. No, I'm definitely excited to do that. And I'm looking for an excuse to get back up to Scotland to ride there. I've just had my newest housemate, Aaron Goody, is actually from Inverness, from Scotland.
I know Aaron. Yeah, Aaron used to live.
So Aaron, there you go. Aaron's just moved into my house. He said, now I've got another Trolls rider. It's like, yes.
Tell him to get off the internet.
Yeah, I wish it was him. He had the day off. I even invited him to come and join us. He's like, no, I'm going to go meet a bird. I'm like, well, fair enough. That's fine. That's okay. We'll let you off, mate.
Each to their own. Then,
Ben, thank you so much for coming in to chat trials with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, I love it. I love it. I just to get away from my work for an hour and talk about bikes and whatnot. But before we go, I'll ask a couple more questions. Is there anyone that you would like to see on the Shindig podcast? I can dig into. I've got a couple of names in my head, so I'm going to see what you say.
Okay, so I had a look through the list recently because I'd seen that you asked this question, and I still don't really know. I can't decide, but I think it'd be interesting to see if you got Ross on, to see Ross MacArthur, to see if you could get him to give his opinion on the trials scene.
Yeah,
and
no, he has got some. We've had some. I've officially met Ross at Derbyshire, I think, quite recently.
Oh, the Bike Trial Centre.
The Bike Trial, that'll be a really good conversation, actually.
Yeah, Ross would be quite good, and I think you've hit quite a few of the people I'd like to hear from you. You've obviously done Martin. You've done Martin and Martin now.
Well, Martin will be out. Well, when this is out, he would have been out last week. Yeah, I was editing it this morning. Yeah, so Martin Hawes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So Martin Hawes. He I'm looking forward to his. And I think you've done. I mean, Ryan Leach is a good one. That's a good coup. That one to get Ryan.
Yeah,
on.
Now. Actually, yeah, his will also be out when this is released too.
yeah. So Ryan's a good one to have had. I'm impressed with that one. So no, I think we'll leave it at that. That'll be for now.
No, cool, mate. That's it. And if you've got a message for any of our trials riders out there that you'd like to give from Ben to the trials community.
Learn the basics and edits over vlogs. That's it.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll leave the vlogs to us because I hate doing proper edits. I'm terrible.
I'm only. Do you know the thing is, right? Is I would have been more down that route a couple of years ago. I wasn't really a big fan of the vlogs. I thought but I see they had their place, right? I watch Ali's all the time. I like it. I watch your guys' vlogs as well. I like the group ride scene. I think that's the thing. I think you guys are doing it right with having big group rides, and just filming everyone and all the random stuff that goes on. I really like that.
All levels too. I want people to see how fun we are as people, not how good we are on bikes. That's the aim.
But simply put, learn the basics and just enjoy it. Like, you don't have to learn something new every day. Sometimes you can just go out and have fun and ride your bike. Don't ride it because you think trials is going to make you famous. Ride trials because you are enjoying it, and keep pushing yourself. That's all.
That is a lovely message, Ben. Really important. I think that should ring true. Learn the basics. Maybe I need to go back to where I started instead of just trying to side up like Damon all the time. But
it's hard not to, right, though, because if anybody can side up, and that's one. If for any UTGSers that are watching, if you want to learn to side up properly, there's two people. You can watch Jack or you can watch Damon.
Yeah.
Damon has the nicest side up technique I have ever seen, and still to this day, there's nobody quite matches him, in my opinion. So.
I totally agree. No one has even yet to put it in that style as well. Not just the size, but the style too. In such a.
I'd like to say I taught him everything he knew, but I think I was better than him for approximately 3 days when he just suddenly went. I'm absolutely insane.
Absolute monster. I'm going to try. Hopefully, he's going to be back on the bike again. I know he's taken.
That'd be a good one, actually. Get Damon on and see what he's got to say.
He was meant to, and then he got rid of his bike. There is dialogue with Damon, but now that you've said it, Ben, there's more reason for me to say, Damon, someone called you out again.
Yeah.
Let's get you on and chat trials. But thanks very much, guys. I've been Matt Pengelly from the Shindig podcast. It's been Ben Travis. You can get Ben's socials on
Inspired Travis on
Instagram there, and that way you can keep up with all of his socials when a new YouTube video comes out. And if you haven't already, go and check out Ben's video projects on the trials bike. They're probably some of the better street videos that were ever made. They're really creative and just good quality. So thanks for everything you've done for the community, Ben.
More than welcome. Just put Ben Travis into YouTube and they'll all come up. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
and thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, buddy. It's been fun.
And you, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up with you again soon, hopefully, and ride.
Sounds good.
Thanks, mate. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
You